Hello, everyone. Welcome back to OncoDaily. I'm your host, Ellen, and today I have the pleasure to talk to Dr. Anna Berkenblit, the Chief Scientific and Medical Officer of PanCAN. Dr. Berkenblit, it is my pleasure to talk to you. Thanks for joining.
Thank you, Ellen.
So to begin with, you started your career as a clinician and then transitioned into leadership roles in biotech and pharma before joining PanCAN. I want to know what motivated that journey and how did it brought you to PanCAN and where you are today?
So thank you, Ellen. It's really a privilege to be here with you. I wish I could tell you that it was a straight and narrow path, but it really wasn't. I always knew that I wanted to be the best doctor that I could be, and it took me a while to figure out what that really meant. So I started off taking care of patients who have cancer, and I was running the phase 1 program at an institution in Boston, and it was a fabulous opportunity. I realized pretty quickly, however, that I wanted to be one of the people who decides how cancer drugs get developed and not just take care of patients. And so that motivated me to move into industry, first in large pharma, where I participated in the development of drugs that have gotten approved for mantle cell lymphoma, renal cell cancer, and breast cancer. And then I transitioned into biotech, a smaller environment that's more nimble and agile, where I felt like I could have a bigger impact. And so most recently, I was chief medical officer at a biotech company where we got a drug approved for ovarian cancer. It showed an overall survival benefit in platinum-resistant disease, which had never been done before. And it was incredibly gratifying. After that, I took a break, and PanCAN and I found each other, and it was really kind of love at first sight in the sense that pancreatic cancer has such a high unmet need. It is bringing up the rear. All these other cancers have had remarkable, transformative changes in standards of care and outcomes for patients. Pancreatic cancer isn't quite there yet, but we're at the tipping point. And so I'm really delighted to play my part to help us accelerate outcomes for patients. So how I describe it is I'm no longer helping one patient at a time, one drug at a time, one company at a time, but I'm really helping all pancreatic cancer patients, and in fact, the whole field, to move forward faster.
That's fantastic to hear, and also very motivating to put all your energy in something, one thing that is more important than doing all those little stuff. Thanks. And to go further, as we are entering Pancreatic Cancer Awareness Month, what do you believe are the most urgent misconceptions about pancreatic cancer that clinicians and the public still hold?
Yeah, pancreatic cancer has a terrible reputation and an appropriately earned one. It's not uncommon to hear that when patients are diagnosed with pancreatic cancer, their doctors tell them, get their affairs in order. There's nothing we can do. And that certainly had been true for a long period of time. It is no longer true. So the misconception that there's nothing you can do, we are working hard to fight that. We know that, unfortunately, still the 5-year survival for pancreatic cancer is only 13%. So I don't mean to minimize the severity of this disease, but there are many treatments now that can help people feel better and potentially live longer. And I think we're just at the tipping point for a whole wave of therapies that are really going to move the needle for patients. But now we know that neoadjuvant chemotherapy, surgery, adjuvant chemotherapy, and treatments for metastatic disease can improve survival. We also know that if patients are diagnosed at an earlier stage, outcomes will be better because patients can undergo surgery. Unfortunately, today, still the majority of patients are diagnosed when disease has already spread. I'm hopeful that we can move things to where most patients are detected with earlier stage disease that can be cured.
Yeah. As you mentioned, early detection is key in the key challenge in pancreatic cancer care. what emerging strategies should clinicians be aware of when it comes to identifying high-risk patients or early signs?
So before we focus on high-risk patients, I just want to point out that unlike other cancers where we have screening methods for the general population, like mammograms for breast cancer, colonoscopies for colon cancer, that improve survival, we don't have a screening strategy yet for the general population for pancreatic cancer. But what we do have is we know that there are some risk factors that put people at higher risk for developing pancreatic cancer. And we know that if those people go into surveillance programs and are followed closely, if they're going to develop pancreatic cancer, they're more likely to have it diagnosed at an earlier stage where it is more treatable. So the high-risk people that we know of are people who have had 1 or 2 family members diagnosed with pancreatic cancer, and they need to have genetic testing. We don't know yet all of the reasons why some families have clusters of pancreatic cancer, but even if we haven't figured out what gene might be involved, those people still need to be followed closely because they are at risk for developing pancreatic cancer. There's other factors that can put people at higher risk for pancreatic cancer, and that includes obesity, alcohol use, smoking, pancreatitis, and chronic pancreatic cysts. So there's a variety of factors that can increase your risk. One in particular is called new-onset diabetes. So this is diabetes that happens rather suddenly in midlife. And we know that people who are over the age of 50 who develop a new diagnosis of diabetes and are losing weight are particularly prone to develop pancreatic cancer within the next few years. So PanCAN is doing a large study, our early detection initiative, in this population to see if we can figure out how to identify those patients who are at high enough risk to encourage them to get into a screening strategy that could diagnose the cancer earlier and improve outcomes. The other part of your question, Ellen, was around early signs. So one of the problems with pancreatic cancer and the reason that most people are diagnosed when it's already spread to other organs is that the early signs are quite vague. They're things that you and I might experience on a daily basis: abdominal pain, bloating, back pain, fatigue. And so it's hard to tease apart what symptoms to worry about versus what symptoms to take seriously. And so you know your body best. And if you're having symptoms that are persisting and it just doesn't feel right, you need to advocate for yourself to get checked out.
That's true. I'm aware that PanCAN offers a set of patient services. How can your patient services team support physicians and their patients in navigating diagnosis, treatments, and beyond?
So PanCAN has our patient services program, and with this, we have nearly 20 highly trained case managers. We talk to more patients, caregivers, and family members than any other organization, and help guide pancreatic cancer patients, caregivers, family members every step of the way through navigating the initial diagnosis, treatment options, clinical trial options, symptomatic care, supportive care, diet and nutrition, genetic counseling, getting people into surveillance programs. We meet patients where they are. Some people call us and say, I was just told I have pancreatic cancer. I don't even know what a pancreas is. And other people call us and come to us with trials, 20 or 30 trials they found on clinicaltrials.gov and are completely overwhelmed. And we can help unpack them and help them figure out which ones might be appropriate for them. So we meet patients where they are, and we're with them every step of the way. When you call PanCAN and you get a case manager initially, that case manager will be with you at every step of the way. We also support providers, physicians, advanced practitioners. Anyone who calls us, we can help get resources to them. We also have a clinical trial finder program. We have an online version, and we also have people at PanCAN whose sole purpose is to help navigate through the clinical trial finding process. What's available on clinicaltrials.gov, again, can be very hard to search. It's overwhelming. but we can help patients find the trials that are appropriate for them and help them get to sites that have slots open. So we talk with clinical sites that have trials open to understand which trials are open where. We also talk with the supporting companies, the companies that are developing the drugs, to make sure that we really understand the trial so that we can share information appropriately with patients.
That's wonderful. You mentioned PanCAN Clinical Trial Finder, right? Can you walk us through how a clinician can use it in their practice, and what value it brings to the patients and their treating physicians?
Yeah, so I've talked a little bit already about how patients
Yeah.
and family members can use our clinical trial finder. And the majority of the people who reach out to us for clinical trials are indeed patients and particularly family members and caregivers who are trying to help their loved one who's overwhelmed with the diagnosis. We certainly would love for more clinicians to make use of our clinical trial finder and our patient services, particularly clinicians who may not have clinical trial experience or may not have clinical trial options where they are, if they're in remote or rural areas or just in areas where clinical trials just are not that common. And so, if we can help the clinicians find potential trials and help their patients get access to them, we love doing that because we know it improves outcomes.
That's amazing. How do you envision leveraging PanCAN's community and data infrastructure to deepen clinical engagement and accelerate breakthroughs?
Yeah, so an important role that PanCAN plays is as a connector in the community between our clinical initiatives, the research grants we give out, our scientific and medical advisory board, our relationships with biotech and pharma. So we convene the best and the brightest scientific and clinical researchers to share ideas, support each other, and collaborate more effectively together. So we play a role as the convener, if you will, in the pancreatic cancer community. The other thing that we do is we have our own Spark Health Data platform. So this platform has data from our clinical initiatives that we then share externally with researchers so that they can ask important questions that our data can help them answer, help us move the field forward. Our Spark Health Data platform includes molecular profiling from over 700 patients that participated in our Know Your Tumor program. So we were providing, and we still do, provide free molecular testing for pancreatic cancer patients. We've done it for more than 10 years. We did it before it was known to improve outcomes. We now know that it does, and the data that we generated actually informed the National Comprehensive Cancer Network, or NCCN, guidelines that now include that patients with metastatic pancreatic cancer should be have their tumor profiled.
As you mentioned earlier, as we began the interview, in your prior roles in drug development, you led clinical programs for multiple cancer therapies. How will that experience inform your work at PanCAN in guiding precision medicine and research priorities in specifically pancreatic cancer?
Yeah, I've sort of come full circle in that regard, and I love the fact that I can draw on my oncology experience, my primary care experience, palliative care, along with my drug development experience to figure out, of all the things that we could do, what should we do? What are the most pressing questions to help us move the field forward? And importantly, given PanCAN's unique role as a patient advocacy organization that supports patients and caregivers, does research, supports others doing research, and shares our data with researchers, how can we do the things that only PanCAN can do, that nobody else is going to be able to do? And so I think, my experience that I bring helps us figure out, of all the things we could do, what should we do? And what we have prioritized since I've gotten here, we did this whole strategic plan, is that there is much to be gained by collaborating with like-minded organizations where we can partner with another organization that shares the same values that we do, but has a complementary skill set or technology. And then that strengthens our relationship and it moves the field forward.
Looking ahead, what do you hope and think will be the defining breakthrough or systematic change in pancreatic cancer care in the next 5 to 10 years? And how are clinicians part of making that a reality?
So there are two breakthroughs that are coming. The first one is that we have a whole new set of targeted therapies available for pancreatic cancer patients that we've never had. RAS is a protein that stimulates cancer growth, and it's responsible for maybe around 30% of tumors all encompassing, but over 90% of pancreatic cancers have a mutation in RAS that drives their cancers. Mm-hmm. And RAS was previously thought to be undruggable for 20 years. We now have drugs that target RAS. In fact, the first phase 3 trial in pancreatic cancer of a RAS inhibitor is ongoing. We anticipate results next year, so in 2026, and that could fundamentally change how we treat pancreatic cancer, and it opens up a whole wave of new therapeutic strategies. We know that probably a RAS inhibitor by itself will not be enough, but rational combinations that will be based on the science that's being done now will help us hopefully have people with metastatic disease live longer, and we'll be able to move it up into earlier lines of therapy, potentially in the adjuvant setting, hopefully to cure more patients. So RAS inhibitors and targeted therapies, huge breakthrough, it's coming. The second breakthrough, I believe, is going to be in early detection. I'm not sure what that's going to look like, but I think that some of the blood tests that are being developed now, both these multi-cancer early detection panels as well as pancreatic cancer specific tests, I think those are going to be incorporated into those surveillance programs that we talked about. I also think that our understanding of high-risk groups is going to get better, so we're going to be able to better identify some of these families that have a lot of pancreatic cancer, but we don't quite know what's driving it. And so I think we'll be able to screen and surveil patients more effectively, allowing us to intercept cancers at an early stage to improve outcomes.
I'm glad to hear that. I believe the future looks bright for pancreatic cancer patients. If you could give one advice to younger clinicians, researchers who wants to make a difference in pancreatic cancer, what would it be?
Well, right now it is a tough time to be a young researcher, a young basic scientist, and also a young clinical translational researcher. With the decrease in federal funding for cancer research and the changes in how the federal government supports the research enterprise at academic centers, it is a challenging time. Really. So, the advice that I would give people is follow your passions. And if pancreatic cancer is your passion, don't lose hope and stay in the field and figure out how to make it work for yourself. There are many career opportunities out there. When I was growing up, I never thought that I would be at a pancreatic cancer advocacy organization, but I just figured it out. And, don't do what other people think that you should do. Figure out what you want to do and just go for it. These pancreatic cancer patients that we have today need clinicians who provide compassionate care. And the pancreatic cancer patients of the future need all of us doing the research now so that patients in the future won't feel that it is a death sentence and won't feel that there's nothing to be done. So we need everybody to be working for patients now and in the future.
Thank you. And at last, here's a question that we love to ask our guests. Maybe a bit out of topic, but please do suggest a book for our audience to read, something that changed your mindset and is a must read.
So the first one is called The Last Lecture by Randy Pausch, Pausch. It was published in
Okay.
2008. It was a bestseller. He was a professor of computer engineering at Carnegie Mellon University, and he developed pancreatic cancer. So he knew that he was going to die. And when academic professors retire, they plan for their last lecture. So he turned that process into a book because it wasn't just about him retiring. He knew that he was going to die of pancreatic cancer. So he packaged all of his life lessons and things that he wanted to impart on the younger generation through the lens of having pancreatic cancer. Highly recommended. On the other end, on the more scientific end, it's not a book. It's an article in the New Yorker. So I mentioned earlier about MCEDs, these multi-cancer early detection panels. They're blood tests. You could order one now today if you wanted to, Ellen. It's not reimbursed. You would pay out of pocket. And the data set yet for them is not robust enough to tell us, yes, this absolutely improves survival. Everybody should do it. There are ongoing studies, large studies, to help us understand how effective this multi-cancer early detection blood test strategy will be. But for now, for people who are interested in trying to understand these tests, because it's really quite complicated, I'd recommend an article by Sid Mukherjee, a Pulitzer Prize-winning author of The Emperor of All Maladies. In June of 2025, he had an article in the New Yorker called The Catch in Catching Cancer Early. And the subheading is New Blood Tests Promise to Detect Malignancies Before They've Spread, but proving that these tests actually improve outcomes remains a stubborn challenge. It's the best article I've read to explain to non-scientists why this idea that is so compelling is so complicated.
Thank you. I will definitely check them out. Thanks for the wonderful talk. Is there anything else you would like to add before we end the interview today?
So November is Pancreatic Cancer Awareness Month. So I hope everybody raises their awareness about the importance of pancreatic cancer, the importance of vague symptoms. If something doesn't feel right, go see your doctor, let people know, and stay tuned because I think we're about to go through some exciting times, despite how difficult the challenges are.
Thank you so much for joining me, for the insights, for the work that you with your team at PanCAN do. It was really wonderful to talk to you, and see you next time.
Sounds great. Thank you for the opportunity, Ellen.
Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe to OncoDaily on YouTube. Hit the bell icon to stay updated.